The House will come to order. Please join Representative Amabile in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Shee will please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Bacon, Representative Bacon is excused. Baisley, Rep. Baisley is excused. Benavidez, is excused. Burnett, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Basenecker, Bradfield, Representative Bradfield's excused. Caraveo, oh, Bradfield's here, sorry. Caraveo, it's okay. Rep. Caraveo's excused. Carver, Catlin, Cutter, Doherty, Duran is here. Esgar, Exum, Froelich, she's here. Geithner, there he is. Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray,
Here.
Hanks, Herod, Holtorf, Hooten, Rep. Hooten is excused. Judah, Kennedy, Kip, Larson, Rep. Larson's excused. Lindsay, Lontine, Luck, Lynch, McCluskey, McCormick, McKean, Minority Leader McKean is excused. McLaughlin, oh, he just walked in. Michelson Genet, Mullica, Representative Mullica is excused. Neville, Ortiz,
Here.
Pelton, Pico, Ransom, Rich, Ricks is on the board. Roberts,
Here.
Sandridge, Sirota, Snyder, Representative Snyder is excused. Soper, Rep. Soper is excused. Sullivan, Tipper, Representative Tipper, nope, excused. Titone, Valdez A, Rep. Valdez is excused. Valdez D, Van Beber, Van Winkle, Weissman, Williams,
Here.
Woodrow, Woog, Young, Representative Young is here, and Mr. Speaker.
With 57 present and excused, we barely have a quorum. Representative Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Journal of Wednesday, May 4th, 2022 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
There are no cameras here today, but this is an important motion, which is the approval of the journal as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Wasn't as strong today. The ayes clearly have it. The motion's approved. Announcements and introductions. Representative Kipp. And Representative McLaughlin. Good morning.
Thank you, members. We appreciate your attention. We actually have a short tribute this morning. Mr. Schiebel, would you mind reading our tribute at length?
Mr. Schiebel.
The House of Representatives convened in the 73rd General Assembly hereby recognizes the 25th anniversary of Western Governors University. The state of Colorado helped to launch Western Governors University in 1997 to provide access to affordable education and training opportunities through online competency-based programs. WGU in Colorado offers high-quality, career-focused degree programs in fields vital to the state's economy, including business, health professions, teaching, and information technology. WGU has demonstrated success in providing affordable education and training opportunities for adult learners, improving education quality, expanding access to underserved populations, including veterans, graduating students, and meeting workforce needs. WGU has awarded more than 6,100 degrees to hardworking men and women, helping develop the business leaders, nurses, teachers, and information technology professionals needed to keep Colorado's economy strong. The members of the Colorado General Assembly recognize and congratulate Western Governors University on its 25th anniversary in serving students in the Centennial State. On request of Representatives Kathy Kipp and Barbara McLaughlin, given this 5th day of May 2022, State Capitol, Denver.
Representative Kipp.
Thank you. We just thought it was appropriate to do a short tribute for Western Governors University because this was a university that's kind of like the original online anniversary because it's 25 years old, and who thought 25 years old it would be such a thing today. But our Western Governors got together and started it, and we're happy to see its tradition continue.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yes, it complements our public schools. It's a really good working relationship, and we're really lucky to have them for all these years, and we want to welcome them to the Capitol today.
That's wonderful. Welcome. Further announcements and introductions. Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm very sad. This is Thursday, the last Thursday of this legislative session where I get to tell you, members, if it's Thursday, it's finance. And we have a robust schedule. So if you are a fan of finance, listen up. We have 14 bills on our calendar. Witness testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. So make sure that stakeholders are aware of this. And the bills we'll be hearing are House Bill 1412. We're going to then hear Senate Bill 217, followed by House Bill 1414, 1415, 1417, then Senate Bill 233, Senate Bill 138, Senate Bill 120, Senate Bill 224, Senate Bill 220, Senate Bill 210, Senate Bill 81, Senate Bill 173, and Senate Bill 225.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we will have an Appropriations Committee upon adjournment of committees this morning. And since we had an Appropriations Committee this morning, we have a joke winner. Thank you all for participating who participated. I know you guys are feeling not funny, but some of you still are. We have 2 joke winners. I'm going to ask them to come on down. Representative Pelton and Representative Michelson-Janae for her first win.
I don't even know what to do with myself. Representative Pelton, quick, get down here. Okay, and I have to give credit to Susan Lantine, Representative Susan Lantine, for this joke. Why do you never iron a 4-leaf clover? Why? You don't want to press your luck. Ground.
Save those peak squeaks for this one. Why does a duck have feathers?
Why does a duck have feathers?
To cover his butt quack.
Representative Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have permission to be absent tomorrow afternoon.
So approved. All right. When is the last approps meeting? Because No more. No more. And my ask is to maintain decorum in this chamber. No more jokes. No more jokes. Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm joined up here by the other members of the Latino caucus. I was going to say Chicano caucus, but the Latino caucus. And, today is Cinco de Mayo, so we hope that you all will have reasons to celebrate today. Maybe we'll get out early. Who knows? But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Cinco de Mayo and why it is important to our community. Many of you understand in Mexico, Mexico had a really difficult time in the mid-1800s, and actually even before that, there were a lot of wars. And after going through the Mexican-American War, the Reform War, there was another war, and in 1861, in July of 1861, Mexican President Benito Juarez, who was the first indigenous president of Mexico, I thought I'd throw that in, issued a moratorium on paying foreign debt for a period of time so they could stabilize in the country. And as a result, most of the other countries were fine with that, except for France. And France said, no, we're going to attack Mexico, and they continued to do that. And there was one attack where the French had 8,000 troops compared to 4,000. So it was 2-1 in the city of Puebla. And it was a lot of the people that lived in Puebla, not just soldiers that stood up to fight against the French in 1862. And on Cinco de Mayo, on the 5th of May, the people of Puebla overcame the French in that Battle of Puebla. And as a result, it was looked at by the country, and it has a lot of similarities to what's going on in Ukraine right now, is when the people stand up, that it really makes a difference. And as a result, it has been something that Mexican Americans have looked at and caused to celebrate. It's not actually celebrated that much in Mexico. It is celebrated more here in the United States because, quite honestly, we didn't have a lot of things to celebrate. And it's often confused with Mexican Independence Day, which is on September 16th. So Cinco de Mayo is really a celebration of the people and standing up. And so around the city, there are going to be this weekend several Cinco de Mayo celebrations, and it's an important holiday to us, so we hope you will take some time to recognize it and celebrate as well.
Thank you, members. Representative Michael St.
Good morning, members. I have some guests in the chamber, and I'm very excited that they are here with me. Today is also a very special day for me. It is Yom Ha'atzmaut. And as many of you know, that I was born in Tel Aviv, and my family has been in Israel for thousands of years. And it is beyond an honor to have you in the chamber. Very importantly, we have the Golda Meir House here. And Golda Meir is one of the, when you think about people that you look up to and aspire to, Golda Meir is a woman that I aspire to every single day and hope that I could be as brave and as powerful as she was. She was a fighter for peace, and that might seem like an odd juxtaposition, but she was a fighter for peace. So please welcome we have the Golda Meir House, we have the Israeli American Council, we have the Auraria Higher Education Center, which is where the Golda Meir House was saved and rescued, and you can go visit it yourself and visit the museum. We have Jewish Colorado here. Of course, we have Rabbi Black from Temple Emmanuel, and we have the National Council for Jewish Women. Thank you so much for being here today on Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have some guests here today. You may have noticed an old friend and colleague, the Honorable Jonathan Singer, is here today, which I am so glad to have followed in his footsteps. And with him today is his public policy class from Metro State University. And welcome. Please stand. I am hopeful that perhaps Jonathan Singer, your professor, has been able to enlighten you with some tidbits of public policy, and that while you're here today, you can observe in action what happens at your General Assembly. So welcome to you all. Please ask us questions. Everyone, please try to meet these wonderful students, and welcome back, Jonathan.
Welcome back, Representative Singer. Representative Kipp.
Thank you, and I also have a guest in the chamber today. I'd like everybody to meet my husband, Don. Don, can you stand up? And yeah, best husband ever, so thanks for visiting us today.
Representative Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And today is a special day. And Mr. Speaker, I know I have a running tab of some fines, and so you might have to just add on to that tab that you have so graciously built up over the last year or two. Members, today is...
That's a $5 fine.
Get ready for some more, members. Today is a very special day. It is my wife's birthday. She is 29 or 28, I think, is what I'm supposed to say. 25 is what I'm hearing. So I just want to wish her a very happy birthday. She's a very special woman, and lucky to have her in my life. Love you.
For Julie, I'll remove that $5 fine. Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Business and Labor Committee, the hardworking taxpayer citizens of the state of Colorado ask for your attendance upon adjournment in room 107. Right now we will be hearing Senate Bill 179. If we get any additional bills, we'll come down and let you know in the committee. But look to see you all there upon adjournment.
Representative A. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have asked and received permission to be absent tomorrow, May 6th, from the Majority Leader.
I'm also going to be excused tomorrow. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee will be meeting upon adjournment in the Old State Library to hear Senate Bill 230 and potentially other bills that may come across.
All right. Minority Leader and Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you all. Hey, folks, we'd like to introduce a couple people over here on the side of the room. One of my best friends in the entire world is Byron Pelton. No, I meant Scott James. Actually, Scott James is County Commissioner from Weld County. He is here to speak up for his county today. Thank you for waving. A little queen wave over there.
Assistant Minority Leader Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this might be the last time I get to introduce my favorite county commissioner. She's in the halls right now, probably making her way here, but Commissioner Carrie Geithner. And so, yeah, she will be here today as well, speaking on behalf of El Paso County. We are glad to have El Paso County in the building. But we are happy to have some of our county commissioners here with us today. And if I could just take the same opportunity to wish Mrs. Mullica happy birthday, I just want to do that as well. So, yeah.
If everyone could come down and do that one by one, that would be appreciated. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you so much. I did mean to introduce Commissioner Pelton over here on the side. I once sent him a text that was meant for somebody else. So we have a very close relationship. Commissioner Pelton, welcome to the chamber.
And Commissioner, if you don't mind reading that text out loud, that would be wonderful. Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Commissioner Pelton is in my district up in Sterling in Logan County and doing an awesome job up there. So,
welcome to the chamber. Any further announcements and introductions? Seeing none.
Oh, I guess we may have one more. Majority Leader Esker. Oh, okay. I thought a Majority Leader. Members, we will put out on everyone's desk the last days of session, the last 3 days. There are slight changes to the rules. They don't actually impact the House as much as they impact the Senate, and the Senate made this decision last week. So these will be put out on your desk. Take a look at them. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask the Majority Leader or myself, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Seeing no further announcements or introductions, Majority Leader Esker. And Marlowe.
You know, mom duty, otherwise called parenting. I move that we proceed out of order for immediate consideration of some third reading bills.
Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for immediate consideration of third reading of bills. Majority Leader Esker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of House Bill 1115.
Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for immediate consideration of House Bill 1115. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1115.
House Bill 1115 by Representatives Kippen Soper, also Senators Pedersen and Hawkes Lewis, concerning the prescription drug monitoring program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Esker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1115 on third reading, final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1115 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. For those participating online, Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Gray votes yes. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Roberts votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 45 aye votes, 20 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1115 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1315.
House Bill 1315 by Representative Snyder and Rich, also Senators Hansen and Priola, concerning a statewide communication system for referral to essential services and in connection therewith, requiring general fund appropriations to be made to the Department of Human Services for the issue of annual grants to help fund the system and making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Esker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1315 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1315 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Gray votes yes. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Roberts votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 56 aye votes, 9 no votes, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1315 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Good bill. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title of House Bill 1328.
House Bill 1328 by Representatives Totona McLaughlin, also Senator Donovan, concerning modifications to the Colorado loans for increasing Main Street business Economic Recovery Act.
Majority Leader Esquire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1328 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1328 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Gray votes yes. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Roberts votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 23 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1328 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1322.
House Bill 1322 by Representatives Benavidez and Valdez, also Senators Moreno and Gonzalez, concerning the clarification of the Water Quality Control Commission's authority and in connection therewith extending the statute of limitations for violations under the Colorado Water Quality Control Act.
Majority Leader Esquire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1322 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1322 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Gray votes yes. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Roberts votes no. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1322 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1258.
House Bill 1258 by Representative Byrd, also Senators Zenzinger and Priola, concerning the creation of essential services for youth special district in each judicial district in the state.
Majority Leader Esquire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1258 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1258 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Gray votes yes. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Roberts votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. It is that time where you press your button and you decide how to vote. Please vote. Please close the machine. With 31 aye votes, 34 no votes, and 0 excused, House Bill 1258 is not adopted. Majority Leader Esquire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of House Bill 1401.
Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for immediate consideration of House Bill 1401. Mr. Shebel, please read the title of House Bill 1401.
House Bill 1401 by Representative Mullica, also Senator Moreno, concerning the preparedness of health facilities to meet patient needs and in connection therewith making appropriation.
Majority Leader Esquire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1401 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1401 on third reading and final passage. Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We heard a lot about this bill yesterday. There was quite a bit of testimony, or not testimony, but debate. And one of the things I did yesterday was I did get in touch with a Colorado Hospital Association lobbyist. I wanted to know what Western Slope hospitals supported this bill. And I have permission to respond or tell you what the Colorado Hospital Association said. They said that they were in an amend position, and they said, I would not say that we are supportive of this legislation in any way, but we have negotiated with Representative Mullica to prevent this from including staffing ratios that are mandated by the legislature, which would be a highly detrimental policy for our members. I felt like yesterday we might have been misled that the Colorado Hospital Association supported this. I would ask for a no vote.
Representative Hanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was struck by this bill. I had not worked this bill in any capacity in the course of my duties here this session. But 22-1401 on the bill summary authorizes the department to fine a hospital up to $10,000 per day for the hospital's failure to, bullet 1, meet the required staffed bed capacity. Bullet 2, include the amount of necessary vaccines for administration in its annual emergency plan and have the vaccines available at each of its facilities. And bullet 3, include the necessary testing capabilities available at each of its facilities. We got a health problem, health crisis, health paucity in many locations, and our solution in this bill is to fine hospitals $10,000 a day. Boy, you talk about a solution in search of a problem, or maybe a solution that is compounding a problem exponentially. That's a bad idea, and I don't think anybody who understands the bill, even knows this bill is coming through, is going to be supportive of this. I'm a no on this. I'm a no on this.
Thank you, Representative Hanks, and we're gonna have to go to Representative Sandridge because he came up very close and waved. All right, Representative Sandridge. No, it was good. You were close. You got.
Yes, I just want to think it was threatened. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in opposition to this bill. I look back in the last couple of years, and the hospitals, doctors, nurses, and the strain they were put on. I commend their hard work during COVID. But I add this bill to the stack of other bills that we've done in the last couple of years that cause doctors, now nurses, to flee this state. Putting pressure on these hospitals after they've gone through substantial pressure the last couple of years is going to make the situation worse, not better. I know this bill has great intentions, but when somebody like a nurse is working their butt off, threatening them with a fine, or the hospital with a fine, this pressure that's put on hospitals will trickle down to the nurses, and it'll make them leave the state and follow the doctors. I'm concerned about the backlash of this bill and the intention of that it will do more harm than good. The answer to our shortage is not pressure on doctors or on pressure on hospitals. It's easing up on free markets and trying to entice nurses, trying to help out the hospitals in enticing, making it a better environment for nurses to want to work in this state. But I think fines, the possible threat of ratios will do more harm than good. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come down to express my concern over this bill and what it will do to our small rural hospitals. When I first became a county commissioner, Cheyenne County owned its hospital. while I was still a county commissioner, we were able to get a question on a ballot, and it became a special district. But without the meal support, that hospital's in the red every year. These fines are just going to put that hospital under, because we cannot find enough nurses to keep it going, and we're having to hire traveling nurses, spending $150, $200 an hour, and it's just as unsustainable. And these fines will kill small rural hospitals. I look at this as another attack on rural Colorado, widening the rural and urban divide. I vote no on this bill.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill. We had a long debate yesterday, and I brought forth the amendment to scrap the fine. We heard a few minutes ago what all those particular measures were. There's not a single one of those criteria that is actually in the control of the hospital. They're all external issues. Hitting them with a fine because they can't hire someone or they can't get the vaccines isn't how you solve the problem. The entire medical community has been under stress, not just nurses, doctors, all of the healthcare providers, assistants, all of the technicians. They've all been under stress. Many of us here have family or friends who have been in that situation during these last 2 years. It has been brutal on our healthcare providers. We do not need to come in there and fine the hospitals $10,000 a day because of staffing shortages, which are out of their control, because whether or not they can get the vaccines in sufficient time and quantity. This is a really bad idea. I cannot believe that that was a negotiated position, that hospitals were willing, that associations are willing to put that kind of financial devastation onto them. It was said a minute ago that this is an example of urban-rural divide. I don't agree with that, because this is going to trash urban and suburban hospitals to a severe degree as well. Many of those, the privately run, are going to be slammed with this because they can't hire any easier. It's a bad idea. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Van Beber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I fully respect the bill sponsor wanting to provide quality of care, we all are going to need a doctor, a hospital, a medical facility at some point in our lives. Sometimes for not so major things, and sometimes for life-altering moments. But I came to the well yesterday to speak about the incredibly complex and cascading issues and factors that lead to this very pressing problem. Everything from a nursing shortage where we don't have enough schools to actually teach nurses, to the fact that we don't have enough educators who are nursing staff to teach nurses. From pandemic factors, all the way to an aging population who is growing with major health problems, concurrent health problems. And I asked us yesterday to think about thoughtful legislation that can actually solve a problem. This, I believe, in my humble opinion, is not legislation that can solve a problem. And isn't that what we're here to do, members? To ensure that we are attacking an issue that can be resolved. Healthcare is one of the most important things we'll deal with here under the Golden Dome. And I heard one of my esteemed colleagues just mention the trickle-down effect. And the trickle-down effect won't just be higher costs. More importantly, for each and every one of us, it will be quality of care. Quality of care. It will be free market enterprise and a business model that changes itself to meet the need of the patient and to meet the need of the staffing. History, economics, and time have shown us this again and again and again. So I do urge a no vote on House Bill 22-1401. I do thank the bill sponsor for the heart behind the bill. But if we're going to be thoughtful and do the right job here, passing legislation that actually takes care of the issue would be our primary concern. This is a complex problem needing complex solutions, and it isn't this bill.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your attention today, esteemed colleagues. Most of you know that I have many daughters, and one of my daughters is a nurse. She lives with us down in the barn in a little apartment we built for her down there, but comes up quite frequently for breakfast, lunch, and dinner to do her laundry and everything else. She works as an emergency room nurse at the Colorado Plains Medical Center. So not so much now that I'm at the Capitol, but last fall, all the way through January, first part of January, and also on the weekends when I come home, I listen to my daughter talk about how hard it is to be a nurse today and how short-staffed they are. She pulls double shifts. And believe me, we grew up as workers. We work. That's what we do out in eastern Colorado. And if someone else isn't picking up the slack, we're going to grab that rein and pull that slack up, because that's what we do, and that's what she does. That's how I raised her and my mother and my wife and our family. So she pulls all these extra shifts trying to keep and take care of her patients, because very much like the bill sponsor, she has a big heart and she cares about the patients. But here's the problem. This bill is asking for hospitals to do something that they can't do. They don't have any control over many of the environmental factors that they face in this difficult health time. But now, we have a bill that says you're going to do it this way, and if you don't do it this way and meet these ratios, we're going to give you a big fine. $10,000 a day. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, hospitals are doing the best they can with what they have. And I mentioned yesterday that a lot of public policy has chased nurses out of the field. Policy promulgated by CDPHE at the highest levels of this state government. So when we want to chase people out of this industry with overbearing rules and regulations, then we say, hospital, that's your problem. Now we're going to fine you if you don't meet these ratios. But they can't hire enough people, ladies and gentlemen. They're not out there. We can't make them fast enough. We're trying. We've actually passed meaningful legislation to let the community colleges and other institutions begin training nurses. But we have the proverbial this effect, the lead lag effect, which you can't recover fast enough. It takes time, just like the energy crisis and the price of fuel going through the roof. We can't recover fast enough. Oh, we'll try, but the pain is going to continue. The pain in healthcare and nursing is going to continue. But we're going to take it out on the hospitals. Now, my daughter's hospital just got bought out by Centura in Morgan County because the little hospital couldn't make it. The margins weren't large enough. People, you have to listen. We cannot blame the hospitals and put more financial pressure on these hospitals. This hurts rural Colorado. My daughter's coming up here today for lunch. I want all of you to come meet her and listen to her and her pleas. I would love that. Now I'm going to talk a little bit, and it's not going to be very long, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to wrap this up, but I want to use this example. I'm a country boy and a farm boy. Let's say the state said, I need you to produce 50 bushels an acre by God, and if you don't, you're going to get fined. And I look to the state, maybe it's the Colorado Department of Agriculture that promulgates this, Legislation comes through that demands that I do this as a farmer, and I say, but I didn't get any rain. The price of fertilizer tripled because of a war in Eastern Europe. All things that I have no control over. But now you're going to blame me and fine me because I'm not meeting production goals or meeting metrics that you want to mandate from on high? And it's my fault? So give me a $10,000 fine a day. And within a month, I will be lining up the equipment and having the farm sale and looking for a job in town. Because it'll be over. Is that what you want for rural hospitals? My colleague from Northeast Colorado said it. This hurts us. This hurts rural Colorado. This hurts rural hospitals. My colleague from Delta said it. This is the wrong approach. I implore you to say no to this bill and seek a better approach, working with the bill sponsor, who has the best of intentions, but an absolute incorrect and divisive methodology that literally could cost rural Colorado health care so severely that more big hospitals look to buy out the little hospitals because they can't make it. Is that what you want? You want these mega hospital industries in this state and all the little people die on the vine? I stand here and stand up for little people. I stand up for my little rural hospitals. I speak out for them loudly today to all of you to say, do not do this to us. So I'm a strong no. And I wish that you listen to our words from rural Colorado. They are honest, they are sincere, and we are predicting the future. Thank you.
Representative Hanks, this is your final time on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, one more bite at the apple here, but as I mentioned, and I suspect this is mostly for those watching at home, and I hope there's many, and I hope people are reading these bills. You know, we get 600 or 700 bills a year that come through here. If you are not on the committee that hears it, you will end up being surprised occasionally, like this one surprised me yesterday. I'm working on other things, and my ears perk up that we're going to fine hospitals $10,000 per day. I truly believe if Coloradans had any idea of the magnitude of damage that is done to their livelihoods and their economies by these 600 and 700 bills, that they ought to be very, very angry. And with that in mind, I would invite everybody to look at this bill, House Bill 22-1401. You can find it at http://leg.colorado.gov. And it is short, but a lot of damage can be done in a small package. And accordingly, I ask that it be read at length, and I ask that the speed vernier on the machine be dialed down so that the common man in rural Colorado or the veteran with one ear can actually understand what's being said. Thank you.
That is a proper motion. We will have the bill read at length at a reasonable speed. Determined by me.
House Committees, Senate Committees, Health and Insurance Appropriations.
I mean, the speed is set at a speed, but so is that.
I'm just waiting to adjust the speed. You know, it is a proper motion that can be withdrawn at any time. Anytime.
Mr. Speaker, I can read it, but I hear people don't like my voice very much.
Listen, I love your voice. Do you want to, you can, I don't know how many pages it is. How many pages is it?
12.
Oh, 17? 12? I mean, it's totally up to you, Representative Hanks, if you want to start, and then once we get somebody up here to adjust the speed, I'll leave it up to you. We'll give it one more second to see if they can get the speed right, but I appreciate you saying that. Great. Okay, Representative Hanks, you have 6 minutes, so it does count against your 10. But and I guess you've already gone up twice, so I guess technically you can. So we'll just wait.
I can do that. I was trying to expedite.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And the rules are that you can only go up twice. So we'll just wait for the tech to adjust the speed, and we'll go from there.
Second regular session, 73rd General Assembly. Assembly State of Colorado engrossed this version, includes all amendments adopted on second reading in the House of Introduction LLS-NO. 22 to 507. 22 to 572.01 Kristen Forrestal, X 4217 House Bill 22 to 1401. House Committees, Senate Committees, Health and Insurance Appropriations. A bill for an act. 101 concerning the preparedness of health facilities to meet 102 patient needs, and, in connection therewith, making an 103 appropriation. Bill summary. Note, this summary applies to this bill as introduced and does not reflect any amendments that may be subsequently adopted. If this bill passes third reading in the House of Introduction, a bill summary that applies to the re-engrossed version of this bill will be available at http://leg.colorado.gov. The bill requires every hospital to establish, by September 1st, 2022, a nurse staffing committee pursuant to rules promulgated by the State Board of Health, either by creating a new committee or assigning the nurse staffing functions to an existing hospital staffing committee. The nurse staffing committee is required to create, implement, and evaluate a nurse house. Amended second reading May 4th, 2022. House sponsorship Mullica. Senate sponsorship Moreno. Shading denotes House amendment. Double underlining denotes Senate amendment. Capital letters or bold and italic numbers indicate new material to be added to existing statute. Dashes through the words indicate deletions from existing statute. Staffing plan and to receive, track, and resolve complaints and receive feedback from direct care nurses and other staff. The bill requires a hospital to submit the nurse staffing plan to the Department of Public Health and Environment Department on an annual basis. Post the nurse staffing plan on the hospital's website. Evaluate the nurse staffing plan on a quarterly basis and, based on complaints and recommendations of patients and staff, revise the nurse staffing plan accordingly, and prepare a quarterly report containing the details of the evaluation. The bill prohibits a hospital from assigning direct care providers to a nursing unit or clinical area of a hospital unless the providers are properly trained in the unit or area assigned. On or before September 1st, 2022, in a form and manner determined by rules promulgated by the State Board of Health, each hospital is required to report the baseline number of beds the hospital is able to staff, and the hospital's current bed capacity. If the hospital's ability to meet staff bed capacity falls below 80% of the required baseline in a specified period, the hospital is required to notify the department and submit a plan to meet that requirement. The bill requires the department to notify a hospital if the hospital's number of staffed beds exceeds 80% of a hospital's total licensed beds and fine the hospital if the hospital does not take corrective action. Each hospital is required to update its emergency plan at least annually and as often as necessary, as circumstances warrant. The bill authorizes the department to fine a hospital up to $10,000 per day for the hospital's failure to meet the required staff bed capacity, include the amount of necessary vaccines for administration in its annual emergency plan and have the vaccines available at each of its facilities, and include the necessary testing capabilities available at each of its facilities. The bill grants rulemaking authority to the department and to the State Board of Health. The bill requires the department to report certain data to its committee of reference as part of its presentation at the hearing held, pursuant to the State Measurement for Accountable, Responsive, and Transparent, Smart Government Act. The bill requires the Office of Saving People Money on Health Care in the Office of the Lieutenant Governor to study the level of preparedness of health facilities to respond to -2-1401 post-viral illness resulting from the COVID-19 virus. The effects of post-viral illness resulting from the COVID-19 virus on the mental, behavioral, and physical health and the financial security of the people of Colorado, and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the cost of healthcare in Colorado and on the resiliency of Colorado's public health system. 1. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Colorado, 2 Section 1. In Colorado Revised Statutes, add 25-3-128 and 325-3-129 as follows. For 25-3-128. Hospitals, nurses, nurse aides, and EMS providers. 5. Staffing requirements, enforcement, waiver rules, definitions. 6. 1. As used in this section. 7. A. Clinical staff nurse means a practical nurse or 8 registered professional nurse licensed pursuant to Article 255(9) of Title 12 who provides direct care to patients. 1011. B. EMS provider means an individual who holds a valid 12 certificate or license issued by the department as provided in 13 Article 3.5 of this Title 25. 14. C. Nurse aide means a person certified pursuant to 15 Article 255 of Title 12 TO practice as a nurse aide who provides 16 direct care to patients or who works in an auxiliary capacity. 17 under the supervision of a registered nurse. 18D, staffing plan means the master nurse staffing plan. 19 developed for a hospital pursuant TO subsection 2B of this. 20 section 21 2A on or before September 1st, 2022, each hospital shall -3 1401 1. Establish a nurse staffing committee pursuant to Rules 2 promulgated by the State Board of Health, either by creating a 3 new committee or assigning the nurse staffing functions to an 4 existing hospital staffing committee. The Nurse Staffing 5 Committee must have at least 60% or greater 6 participation by clinical staff nurses, in addition to auxiliary 7 personnel and nurse managers. The Nurse Staffing Committee 8 must include a designated leader of workplace violence 9 prevention and reduction efforts. 10B. The Nurse Staffing Committee 11I shall annually develop and oversee a Master Nurse 12 staffing plan for the hospital that 13A is voted on and recommended by at least 60-14% of the Nurse Staffing Committee. 15B includes minimum staffing requirements AS 16 established in rules promulgated by the State Board of Health 17 for each inpatient unit and emergency department that are 18 aligned with nationally recognized standards and guidelines. 19C includes strategies that promote the health, safety, 20 and welfare of the hospital's employees and patients. 21D includes guidance and a process for reducing 22 nurse TO patient assignments to align with the demand based on 23 patient acuity, and 24E may include innovative staffing models. 25(2)A shall submit the recommended staffing plan to the 26 hospital's senior nurse executive and the hospital's governing 27 body for approval. If the final plan approved by the hospital. -4 1401 1 changes materially from the recommendations put forth by the 2 staffing committee. The senior nurse executive shall provide the 3 nurse staffing committee with an explanation for the changes. 4B, if, after receiving the explanation referenced IN 5 subsection 2B, 2A of this section, the staffing committee 6 believes the final plan does not meet nurse staffing standards 7 established in rules promulgated by the State Board of Health, 8 the staffing committee, with a vote of 60% or more of 9 the members, may request the department review the final 10 adopted staffing plan for compliance with rules promulgated by 11 the State Board of Health. 12.3 may publish a report that is responsive to the 13 changes made to the recommended plan pursuant TO subsection 14(2)(b)(2) of this section, if any. 15.16.4 shall describe in writing the process for receiving, 17 tracking, and resolving complaints and receiving feedback on. 18 the staffing plan from clinical staff nurses and other staff, and 19V shall make the complaint and feedback process 20 available to all providers, including clinical staff nurses, 21 nurse aides, and EMS providers. 22C, the department is authorized TO and shall enter, 23 survey, and investigate each hospital AS necessary TO ensure 24 compliance with the nursing staffing standards established IN 25 rules promulgated by the State Board of Health. 26.3, a hospital shall, 27A, submit the final, approved nurse staffing plan to the -5 1401 1 department on an annual basis, 2B, on a quarterly basis, evaluate the staffing plan and 3 prepare a report for internal review by the staffing committee, 4C, provide the relevant unit-based staffing plan TO, 5I, each applicant for a nursing position on a given unit 6 upon an offer of employment, and 7.2 a patient upon request, and 8D, prepare an annual report containing the details of the 9 evaluation required in subsection 2C of this section and 10 submit the report to the department in a form and manner 11 determined by rules promulgated by the State Board of Health. 12.4 a hospital shall not assign a clinical staff nurse, 13 nurse aide, ORMS provider to a hospital unit unless consistent 14 with the conditions of participation adopted for federal 15 Medicare and Medicaid programs. Hospital personnel records 16 include documentation that the training and demonstration of 17 competency were successfully completed during orientation. 18 and on a periodic basis consistent with hospital policies. 19.5a on or before September 1st, 2022, each hospital shall 20 report, in a form and manner determined by rules promulgated 21 by the State Board of Health, the baseline number of beds the 22 hospital is able TO staff in order TO provide patient care and the 23 hospital's current bed capacity. The reporting may include 24I seasonal or other anticipated variances in staff bed 25 capacity, and 26, the second, anticipated factors impacting staff bed capacity. 27B, in promulgating rules pursuant to subsection 5A have -6 1401 1 this section, the State Board of Health shall 2I. Use the data provided to the department by each 3 hospital throughout the COVID-19 pandemic through and for internet-based resource management and communication tool 5 developed for and commonly used by hospitals. 6.2. Determine the number of seasonal variations 7 allowable with regard TO subsection 5A.I. Off this section with 8 a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4 allowable variances. 9 and 10. 3. Define staff bed capacity. For the purposes of this 11 section. 12 VESI, on or before September 1st, 2022, as determined by Rules 13 promulgated by the State Board of Health, if a hospital's ability 14 TO meet staff bed capacity falls below 80% of the 15 hospitals reported baseline for not less than 7 and not 16 more than 14 consecutive days, the hospital shall notify 17 the department and submit 18I. A plan TO ensure staff is available within 30 days. 19 to return to a staff bed capacity level that is 80%. 20 of the reported baseline, or 21, 2, a request for a waiver due to a hardship, which 22 request articulates why the hospital is unable to meet the 23 required staff bed capacity if 24a. The hospital's current staff bed capacity falls 25 below 80% of the hospital's reported baseline for not 26 less than 7 and not more than 14 consecutive days, 27 or -7 1401. 1b. The hospital's current staff bed capacity threatens to public health. 3d. The department may impose fines, not TO exceed $1 $4,000 per day, for a hospital's failure TO. 5i. Meet the reported staff bed capacity of 86% or more of the hospital's reported baseline. Or 7.2. Accurately report a hospital's baseline staff bed 8 capacity. 9.6. Each hospital with more than 25 beds shall 10 articulate in ITS emergency plan a demonstrated ability to 11 expand the hospital's staff bed capacity up to 112 25% of the hospital's baseline staff bed 13 capacity and intensive care unit capacity within 14 days 14 after. 15a. A statewide public health emergency is declared or 16 the hospital is notified by the department that surge capacity IS 17 needed, and 18b. The state has used all available authority to expedite 19 workforce availability and maximize hospital throughput and 20 capacity, such as 21I. Licensing or certification flexibility for Health 22 facilities. 23.2. Reducing requirements for licensing, credentialing. 24. And the receipt of staff privileges. 25.3. Waiving scope of practice limitations. And 26.4. Waiving state-regulated payer provisions that 27 create barriers to timely patient discharge. -8 1401. 1.7. Each hospital shall update its emergency plan at least 2 annually and as often as necessary, as circumstances warrant. 3. The emergency plan must include the actions the hospital will foretake to maximize staff bed capacity and appropriate 5 utilization of hospital beds to the extent necessary for a public 6 health emergency and through the following activities. 7.a. Cross-training, just-in-time training, and 8. Redeployment of staff. 9.b. Supporting all hospital facilities, including 10 hospital-owned facilities, TO provide any necessary, available, 11 and appropriate preventive care, vaccine administration, 12 diagnostic testing, and therapeutics, 13c. Maximizing hospital throughput by discharging 14 patients to skilled nursing, post-acute, and other step-down 15 facilities, and 16d. Reducing the number of scheduled procedures in the 17 hospital. 18.8. Beginning September 1st, 2022, the department may fine 19 a hospital an amount not to exceed $10,000 per 20 day for the failure to 21a. Achieve the required staff bed capacity described in 22 subsection 6 of this section within 14 days after a 23 declared statewide public health emergency or other 24 notification by the department that surge capacity is needed. 25b. Include the amount of necessary vaccines for 26 administration in ITS annual emergency plan and have the 27 vaccines available to the extent that the vaccines are -9 1401. 1 available at each of ITS hospital facilities and hospital-owned 2 primary care sites during and outside of the public health 3 emergency, as determined by rules promulgated by the 4 department, and 5 SC. Include the necessary testing capabilities available in 6 ITS annual emergency plan and at each of ITS hospital facilities 7 and hospital-owned primary care sites during and outside of a 8 public health emergency, to the extent that the testing IS 9 available, as determined by rules promulgated by the 10 department. 11.9. For the purposes of this section, the department shall 12 enter, survey, and investigate each hospital. 13a. As deemed necessary by the department. 14b. For purposes of infection control and emergency 15 preparedness, and 16 SC. TO ensure compliance with this section. 17.10. The department shall annually report on the 18 information contained in the quarterly report described in 19 subsection 3D of this section as a part of ITS Presentation 2. 20 ITS Committee of Reference at a hearing held pursuant TO Section 212-7-2032A of the State Measurement for Accountable, 22 Responsive and Transparent, Smart, Government ACT. 23.11. The Department may promulgate rules to require 24 health facilities licensed pursuant to Section 25-1.5-103 to 25 develop and implement infection prevention plans that align 26 with national best practices and standards and that are 27 responsive to COVID-19 and other communicable diseases. The -10-1401. 1 requirements may include testing, vaccination, and treatment 2 in accordance with applicable state laws, rules, and Executive 3 orders. 4.12. The State Board of Health shall promulgate rules as 5 necessary to implement this section. 625-3-129. Office of Saving People Money on Healthcare, Study 7 Report. 1. The Office of Saving People Money on Healthcare and 8. The Lieutenant Governor's Office shall study 9A. The level of preparedness of health facilities licensed 10 pursuant to Section 25-1.5-103 TO respond to post-viral illness 11 resulting from the COVID-19 virus. 12B. The effects of post-viral illness resulting from the 13 COVID-19 virus on the mental, behavioral, and physical health 14 and the financial security of the people of Colorado, and 15C. The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the cost of 16 healthcare in Colorado and on the ability of Colorado's public 17 health system to respond to emergencies. 18.2. On or before January 1st, 2023, and on or before January 19.1 each year thereafter, the Office of Saving People Money on 20 Healthcare shall report its findings to the Governor. 21.3. The Office of Saving People Money on Healthcare shall 22 coordinate, monitor, and support the efforts to improve the 23 affordability of healthcare, health outcomes, and public 24 health readiness in state programs and departments. 25 Section 2. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 25-1.5-103, amend 26, 1A, IC, as follows. 2725-1.5-103. Health Facilities, Powers and Duties of Department. -11-1401. 1. Limitations on rules promulgated by Department definitions. 2. 1. The Department has, in addition to all other powers and duties 3 imposed upon it by law, the powers and duties provided in this section as follows. 5A, ISC. The Department shall extend the survey cycle or 6 conduct a tiered inspection or survey of a health facility licensed for at 7 least 3 years and against which no enforcement activity has been 8 taken. No patterns of deficient practices exist, as documented in the 9 inspection and survey reports issued by the Department, and number 10 substantiated complaint resulting in the discovery of significant 11 deficiencies that may negatively affect the life, health, or safety of 12 consumers of the health facility has been received within the 3 years 13 prior to the date of the inspection. The Department may expand the scope 14 of the inspection or survey to an extended or full survey if the Department 15 finds deficient practice during the tiered inspection or survey. The 16 Department, by rule, shall establish a schedule for an extended survey 17 cycle or a tiered inspection or survey system designed, at a minimum, to 18 reduce the time needed for and costs of licensure inspections for both the 19 Department and the licensed health facility, reduce the number, frequency, 20 and duration of on-site inspections, reduce the scope of data and 21 information that health facilities are required to submit or provide to the 22 Department in connection with the licensure inspection, reduce the 23 amount and scope of duplicative data, reports, and information required 24 to complete the licensure inspection, and be based on a sample of the 25 facility size. Nothing in this subparagraph SC, subsection 26, 1A, ISE, limits the ability of the Department to conduct a periodic 27 inspection or survey that is required to meet its obligations as a state. -12-1401. 1 survey agency on behalf of the Federal Centers for Medicare and 2 Medicaid Services or the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing 3 to assure that the health facility meets the requirements for participation in the Medicare and Medicaid programs or limits the ability of the 5 Department TO enter, survey, and investigate hospitals pursuant 6.2 Section 25-3-128. 7 Section 3. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 25-3-102.1, amend 8, 1B, 2, as follows. 925-3-102.1. Deemed status for certain facilities. 1B, 2, if 10 the standards for national accreditation are less stringent than the state's 11 licensure standards for a particular health facility, the Department of 12 Public Health and Environment may conduct a survey that focuses on the 13 more stringent state standards. beginning 1 year after the Department 14 first grants deemed status to a health facility pursuant to this paragraph 15b, subsection 1b, the Department may conduct validation surveys. 16 based on a valid sample methodology of up to 10% of the total. 17 number of accredited health facilities in the industry, excluding hospitals. 18 if the Department conducts a validation survey of a health facility. The 19 validation survey is in lieu of a licensing renewal survey that the Health 20 facility would have undergone if the health facility did not have deemed 21 status pursuant to this paragraph b, subsection 1b. 22 notwithstanding any other law to the contrary, the 23 Department may enter, survey, and investigate hospitals 24 pursuant to section 25-3-128. 25 section 4. In Colorado Revised Statutes 25-3-105, amend 26, 1A, I, B, and 1A, I, C, as follows, 2725-3-105. License, fee rules, penalty repeal. Dash 13-1401. 1A, I, B, on or after June 4, 2012. The State Board of Health may second increase the amount of any fee on the schedule of fees established 3 pursuant to subsection 1A, I, A, of this section that is in effect on June 4, 2012, by an amount not to exceed the annual percentage change in the 5 United States Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Consumer 6 Price Index for Denver Aurora Lakewood for all urban consumers and all 7 goods, or its applicable predecessor or successor index. Nothing in this 8 subsection 1A, I, B limits the ability of the State Board of Health to 9 reduce the amount of any fee on the schedule of fees in effect on such 10 date or to modify fees as necessary to comply with section 24-75-402. 11 notwithstanding the requirements of this subsection 1A, I, B. 12 the State Board of Health may assess fees necessary to cover 13 the costs associated with the surveys conducted pursuant to 14 section 25-3-128. 15 C. The Department of Public Health and Environment shall 16 institute, by rule, a performance incentive system for licensed health 17 facilities under which a licensed health facility would be eligible for 18 reduction in its license renewal fee if the Department's on-site 19 relic insure inspection demonstrates that the health facility has number 20 significant deficiencies that have negatively affected the life, safety, or 21 health of its consumers. The licensed health facility has fully and timely 22 cooperated with the Department during the on-site inspection. The 23 Department has found no documented actual or potential harm to 24 consumers, and, in the case where any significant deficiencies are found 25 that do not negatively affect the life, safety, or health of consumers, the 26 licensed health facility has submitted, and the Department has accepted, 27 a plan of correction and the health facility has corrected the deficient. 14-1401. 1 practice, as verified by the Department, within the period required by the 2 Department. Notwithstanding the requirements of this subsection 3, 1A, I, SE, any fees associated with the surveys and 4 investigations of hospitals authorized by section 25-3-128 are 5 not subject to a reduction based on the performance incentive 6 system. 7 section 5. In Colorado Revised Statutes, repeal 25-3-702. 8 section 6. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 25-3-703, amend 1-9 as follows. 1025-3-703. Hospital Report Card Rules Exemption. 1A. The 11 Executive Director shall approve a Colorado Hospital Report Card 12 consisting of public disclosure of data assembled pursuant to this Part 7. 13. At a minimum, the data shall be made available on an internet website in 14 a manner that allows consumers to conduct an interactive search that 15 allows them to view and compare the information for specific hospitals. 16. The website shall must include 17. I. Clinical outcomes measures from general and public. 18. Hospitals licensed pursuant to Section 25-1.5-103, and 19. 2. Such additional information as is determined necessary to 20. Ensure that the website enhances informed decision-making among 21 consumers and healthcare purchasers, which shall must include, at a 22 minimum, appropriate guidance on how to use the data and in 23 explanation of why the data may vary from hospital to hospital. The data 24 specified in this subsection 1 shall be released on or before November 25, 30, 2007. 26b. When making a determination as to what data 227 report as required by subsection 1a of this section each. 15-1401. 1 Executive Director shall consider 2. I. inclusion of data on all patients regardless of the three-payer source for Colorado hospitals and other information that may be required for either individual or group purchasers. 5. To assess the value of the product. 6. The second, use of standardized clinical outcomes measures. 7. Recognized by national organizations that establish standards. 8. To measure the performance of healthcare providers. 9. 3. Data that is severity and acuity adjusted using 10. Statistical methods that show variation in reported outcomes. 11. Where applicable, and data that has passed standard edits. 12. 4. Reporting the results with separate documents. 13. Containing the technical specification and measures. 14. V. Standardization in reporting. And 15. 6. Disclosure of the methodology of reporting. 16. Section 7. In Colorado Revised Statutes 25-3-703, add 3, 17 and 4 as follows. 1825-3-703. Hospital Report Card Rules Exemption. 3. The 19 State Board of Health shall promulgate rules that establish 20 nursing-sensitive quality measures based upon a nationally 21 recognized standard and revise the rules as necessary every 3 years to be included in the hospital report card. The 23 nursing-sensitive quality measures must include at a minimum 24, A. Skill mix, 25, B. The nursing hours PER patient PER day, 26, C. Voluntary turnover, 27, D. Patient falls prevalence rate. 16-1401. 1. E. Patient falls with injury, and 2. F. Recorded incidences of violence against staff and 3 contracted staff. 4. Hospitals with fewer than 100 beds are 5 exempt from the requirements of this section. 6. Section 8. In Colorado Revised Statutes 25-3-705, amend 1. 7 as follows. 825-3-705. Healthcare Charge Transparency Hospital Charge 9 Report. 1. The Commissioner of Insurance shall work with the duly 10 constituted Association of Hospitals selected by the Executive Director 11 pursuant to Section 25-3-702 for assistance in carrying out the purposes 12 of this section. 13. Section 9. Appropriation. 1. For the 2022-23 state fiscal 14 year, $645,340 is appropriated to the Department of Public Health and 15 Environment for use by the Health Facilities and Emergency Management 16 Services Division. This appropriation is from the General Fund and is based 17 on an assumption that the division will require an additional 6.2 FTE. 2. 18. Implement this act. The division may use this appropriation for the nursing. 19. An acute care facility survey. 22. For the 2022-23 state fiscal year, $139,939 is appropriated to 21 the Office of the Governor. This appropriation is from the General Fund. 22. And is based on an assumption that the office will require an additional 23.0.9 FTE. To implement this act, the office may use this appropriation for 24 the administration of Governor's office and residence. 25. Section 10. Safety Clause. The General Assembly hereby 26 finds, determines, and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate 27 preservation of the public peace, health, or safety. 17-1401.
Seeing no further, Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope you all heard the very last couple paragraphs that was just read, because one of the things that jumped out at me was that in the current version of the bill, the re-engrossed version, or the engrossed version, which was amended by a committee report, when I had been looking at this, what struck me was that the office may use this appropriation for the administration of the governor's office and residence. And I was trying to figure out what this bill had to do and why we were appropriating money to the governor's residence up here on 8th Street. So I went back into the bill, and I'm sure you all have already seen this piece, but on the bill that I'm looking at, I'm on page 11, there's a whole section in section 25 that's on the Office of Saving People Money on Health Care. And those of you that were here 3 and 4 years ago would remember that the governor added that new office when he was elected and appointed the lieutenant governor to run that office, and at the time gave her basically a double salary for doing so. I think the vote was probably party line, but all that being said, we've been asking for a report to come in via the SMART Act hearings and to committees, and I'm very pleased to say that the Office of Saving People Money on Healthcare is in this bill. So thank you to the sponsor for giving her some tasks to actually be part of this bill and do some reporting on the effects and what is going to happen in this bill. Here's the one piece I do want to mention. Under the section 25-3-129, moving down to section 2, the Office of Saving People Money on Healthcare shall report its findings to the governor on or before January 1st, 2023. And I guess I would mention that it would have been wonderful if we could have included and the legislature. So not just the governor and the lieutenant governor would have this information from this bill, but it would be really nice if the health committees and possibly the joint budget committee could have also gotten some information on the effects of this bill, including these huge fines of $10,000 to hospitals that are just trying desperately to keep up. I know that you all know that Colorado and the United States and even the world has had a tough couple of years, not just citizens, not just employees, not just businesses, hospitals and hospital workers and our medical professionals have really taken the brunt of the last couple of years with the pandemic. And the last thing I just want to say is that I have a constituent that contacted me last year, and she does a very specialized type of surgery. And you know, I have 2 hospitals in my district, so she rotates hospitals too. I know she does this specialized surgery at additional hospitals, some up in Aurora, and I don't know where else she travels to do this, to be part of this surgical team. But she has nurses as well, and I know with the mandates, she had lost her 2 best nurses. But I remember her coming to me when we were visiting. She actually ran into her when I was out walking my dog, and she said that she had lost her 2 best nurses, and she felt so bad, and that was going to be detrimental to not just her surgical team, her ability to do this specialized surgery, the hospitals themselves, but the ultimate end of this bill is that we are now going to turn around and fine the hospitals $10,000 a day for something that was completely out of their control. This was not something that they chose to do, to lose their, well, at least in this one medical person's estimation, when she lost the 2 best nurses. I just feel like beating up on the hospitals that are not responsible for that, didn't ask for it, didn't necessarily want it. I feel like that is a huge mistake on the part of the legislature. With that, in the current form that we are looking at right now, I urge a no vote on the bill.
Thank you, Representative Ransom. Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you too, Representative Bockenfeld.
Mr. Speaker, I do have to tell you, I find it very, very ironic that this bill has language in it calling the Office of Saving Money for Health Care, and part of that bill is to fine hospitals $10,000 a day. I mean, how does that save money on health care? I don't know when in this country that we decided that the government was the solution for all problems. The best people to address an issue on hospital staffing is the hospitals themselves. So I want to take an opportunity to read an article.
And Representative Bockenfeld, before you do that, hold on one sec. Members, we're on 3rd reading. Can we minimize our conversations and direct our attention to the well? Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that. I want to take the opportunity to read an article that's in the Colorado Springs Gazette today. And it's titled, Children's Hospital Colorado Adds Tuition-Free Education Benefit. This is the hospital trying to address their own issue. They don't need government to help.
Children's Hospital Colorado last week became the latest major employer to add tuition-free education as an employee benefit, joining a growing list of ranging from Walmart to Walt Disney World. Nearly a fourth of Colorado's 7,500 employees have created user accounts to find out more about the benefit through the Denver-based Guild Education, said Greg Raymond, president of the Pediatric Healthcare Nonprofit Southern Colorado Operations. The benefit pays for classes, books, and other educational materials in more than 75 programs at 25 colleges. Online programs and other education providers, and up to $5,250 a year in cost for more than 200 other educational programs. This is the benefit team members ask for in surveys to be able to grow and develop their careers.
Representative Buckenfeld, is this to the bill? Is House Bill 1401?
I believe this is to the bill. Mr. Speaker, I'm trying to establish that the hospitals are in a position where they can actually address the concerns and issues that this bill is trying to address on their own, and they don't need the assistance of the government. Is
okay.
That still in order?
Well, let's keep going a little bit. I appreciate that foundation.
This is a benefit team members ask for in surveys to be able to grow and develop their careers, and has been for several years in the making. Since before the COVID-19 pandemic, Raymond said. We recruit nationally and are the first pediatric hospital to offer this benefit. We anticipate it will be a differentiator when competing with other pediatric hospitals for talent. So they're trying to accomplish and improve their staffing levels on their own. They don't need a hand up from government. Unlike traditional tuition reimbursement programs many employers offer, the Guild program skips the step of employees having to pay for tuition and books and then reimburse, Raymond said. It is tough for frontline employees to be able to afford tuition on the front end, so instead of reimbursing, we pay up front. That opens the door to a whole new group of individuals, Raymond said. Our goal is to grow our own workforce and retain individuals who have professional aspirations. It will allow those in entry-level roles to become nurses, respiratory therapists, or other clinical roles. Other employers offering the program include UC Health, Bon Secours, Mercy Health in Cincinnati, Chipotle, Discovery Financial Services, Kohl's, Macy's, PepsiCo, Taco Bell, Target, Tyson Foods, and Waste Management. Guild's programs through providers such as Cornell University, Cornell Program, Colorado State University Business School, Oregon State University, University of Central Florida, and the University of Denver offer high school completion, college preparation, professional certifications, learning, English, and undergraduate and graduate degrees. Children's employs 1,200 in the Colorado Springs area to operate a 115-bed hospital on the UC Health Memorial North Campus in Briargate, as well as the 2 outpatient and specialty clinics in the Briargate and east of downtown Colorado Springs. A third outpatient and specialty clinic, which will offer pediatric behavioral health and other services, is under construction near Chapel Hills Mall and is expected to open this year. The new children's program began a week before online sales giant Amazon announced it will offer free tuition to degree and certification programs starting in the summer semester at Pikes Peak Community College through the company's Career Choice program. Amazon operates a fulfillment center, sorting center, 3 delivery stations, and a Whole Foods market in the Colorado Springs area, together employing more than 3,000 people. Amazon plans to spend $1.2 billion to train more than 300,000 employees worldwide by 2025, so they can move to higher-paying jobs. Pikes Peak Community offers nearly 200 degree and certification programs, including bachelor's degrees in nursing and emergency services administration. Ladies and gentlemen, these hospitals do not need government to solve their problem. As I read this article, did you notice that the hospital in Colorado Springs is expanding their services? These folks in Colorado Springs wouldn't be expanding their services if they didn't feel that they had the capability of addressing these issues that government's trying to address in this bill. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give these folks the opportunity to handle these issues on their own, and I ask for a no vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Bockenfeld. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also rise in strong opposition of this bill. I don't know how many of you have heard the saying that the beatings will continue until morale improves. But that's exactly what this bill does to the hospitals of rural Colorado, the hospitals of suburban Colorado, and the hospitals of urban Colorado. Right now, our hospitals have been struggling throughout a global pandemic that has hit our beautiful mountainous state. We've been struggling before the pandemic with the supply chain to be able to have an adequate number of nurses, RNs, CNAs, nurse practitioners, PAs, even doctors. And the reason for the shortage is explainable. We have this large bubble moving through our society called the baby boomers, who are retiring, utilizing more health care than ever before. And we haven't been training enough medical professionals. And then we have the pandemic hit. And our hospital staff have done amazing jobs. I hope everyone in this chamber thanks someone who works in a hospital. Thank a nurse, thank a doctor, even thank the person who changes the bed sheets. Because what they have done for our state and our society is nothing short of remarkable. However, this bill and adding more pressure to hospitals to have to hire more nurses at a time when you cannot find more nurses really does say the beatings will continue until morale improves. As someone who sits on a hospital board and has been intimately involved with the governance of our hospital, I can tell you that we've had many late-night meetings trying to decide where are we going to hire the nurses we need to be able to keep operations. We've had to go to Travelers. And Travelers, just to explain, those are employment agencies that will employ a nurse and they will allow them to be temporarily placed in a hospital for a contract. A comparison, an employed nurse at a typical hospital makes around $45 an hour. With benefits, that's around $65 an hour. In Travelers, you could make $100 an hour, but the cost to the hospital, to that employment agency, would be $185 an hour. That's a significant delta, almost 3 times more what the hospital would be paying the employee versus the traveler. I would love to be able to pay all of our nurses in Colorado a lot more. But the problem is what Travelers have created here in Colorado is a system where they have forced hospital staff to go to them because they're the only game in town. They're the only place where we can find nurses. What House Bill 1401 does is it plays right into the hands of the people who own the traveling agencies, these employment agencies. They're going to get rich off of this bill. Hospitals are going to continue to have to look at making ends meet. 54% of Colorado's hospitals made either zero profit margin or negative profit margin last year, and that's the same statistic. It's held true for about the last 5 years as well, and that's as far back as I went looking at statistics. Most all of those hospitals, it's probably no surprise, are in rural Colorado, the part of Colorado that I hail from. So if you tell a rural hospital that now you have to employ more personnel, that's going to cost you more, and you're already losing money, anywhere from $100,000 to maybe even $1 million a month, where are you going to find, first of all, the money? Second of all, where are you going to find the person to come work for you? It's actually quite difficult to find a traveler to actually come to rural Colorado. They love coming to places like Denver, Boulder, Colorado Springs. But even try to get them to come to a place like, say, Delta or Montrose or even Meeker. They may enjoy going to Grand Junction because there's a lot of fun things to do there when you're not working. But it's a lot harder in places that are more remote, more frontier, more critical access. So then if you're in hospital administration looking at what 1401 does, you're going to say, well, my only option is to reduce how much care we provide. So you're going to reduce the number of beds maybe in your ICU because the ratio is 1-to-1. Maybe you're going to reduce the number in med-surg. And so you're going to say, well, we're just going to have fewer med-surg. You're going to cut back on all the areas that you can cut back. And then it's now the free fall for that hospital. If you were already losing money, now you're cutting into the areas that are really about patient care and patient access to quality health care. And if you're from a small town and you really do need to go to the hospital and they don't have the space, the worst news you can hear is, we're on divert. If you're on divert here in Denver, it may be a few blocks to the next hospital. If you're on divert in western Colorado, it may be a few hours to the next hospital. Or worse yet, we may fly you on a helicopter, and then you're hit with a $25,000 bill after that. When if you had allowed the hospital to continue to operate as they currently do, to understand that you put the patient first. There's the Hippocratic oath of do no harm. And our doctors, our nurses, they put the patients first day in and day out, no matter how hard the challenge is. And I can't thank them enough. They have been superstars, not only in the pandemic, but before the pandemic. If you've ever had a medical emergency, the person you want to see most is someone who's skilled in medicine, someone who knows how to treat you, and someone who will help you recover. But this bill actually takes us in a different direction. What I see in this bill is I see it harming rural Colorado. And then if reducing the amount of access to care is not enough pain in this bill, like I said, the beatings will continue until morale improves, then there's a $10,000 fine. So this bill sets up this collaborative governance structure for staffing ratios. And if for some reason you're unable to comply with what this governance has said, then CDPHE comes in and they fine the hospital $10,000 a day. What we ought to be looking at was patient care affected. Was the quality of care that we expect, and is the medical standard affected? And that should be the standard. I was telling one of my colleagues, it's kind of like being of one religious faith. And let's say you violate the tenet of that faith.
90 seconds remaining.
Thank you.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And then you have the state come in and they fine you for violating the tenets of your own faith. Well, we all know that sometimes there's going to be exceptions. And this bill does not give those exceptions that our healthcare hospitals and workers need to be able to perform their job to the best that they can. I would continue to renew a no vote on this bill and ask for a no vote. It will harm rural hospitals, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. This is the wrong direction for Colorado.
Representative Molka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is about two things. It's about protecting healthcare workers, and it's about ensuring our hospitals are prepared for another emergency or pandemic. I remember early on in this pandemic when healthcare workers were lauded as heroes, and everyone was going outside at night, banging their pots and pans together. I also remember when this pandemic first started, and I remember the fear in my colleagues' eyes. I remember the tears and the pure exhaustion that they had from this last wave. Members, we are quick to call these individuals healthcare heroes. We are quick to talk about what they mean to us and to our state. But those are words. This bill gives the opportunity to put those words into action. This bill gives the opportunity to make sure that we have protections in place for these workers who have been taking care of us. This bill provides flexibility. We've heard in the debate today, we heard in the debate yesterday, the rural-urban divide. This bill specifically addresses that. Let's be clear what this bill does. This bill builds on the Chapter 4 regulations for hospital licensing that's already in place. This bill allows for individual hospitals to create their own individual staffing committees comprised of frontline healthcare workers from that hospital to provide that flexibility, because we do recognize that a hospital in Delta operates differently than a hospital in Denver. And we did want to provide that flexibility for that hospital in Delta to be able to determine what works in Delta, but also to make sure that what works in Denver is able to be implemented as well. So there is that flexibility, but we have to focus on what the workers are looking for, members. And mind you, what this staffing committee does is they come together, they look at what those staffing metrics should be by unit. They can't pull those numbers out of thin air. They have to utilize some sort of evidence-based model or some sort of national clinical model to come up with those numbers. And then those recommendations are sent to the chief nursing executive and to the governing body. And so we provide that flexibility to do that at the hospital level, making sure that they're looking at staffing, making sure that they're looking at workplace violence. In addition to that, we want to make sure that our hospitals are as prepared as they can be. During this pandemic, we heard so much about how many hospital beds we had. Well, come to find out that wasn't accurate. When we were talking about licensed beds. We can have all the beds in the world that we want. If those beds aren't staffed, then we're not truly putting out the accurate information. So what this bill calls for is to make sure that those staffed beds are reported to CDPHE. And what this bill calls for is to make sure that those hospitals are staffing those beds to at least 80%. And if they're not, then they can work with CDPHE to make sure that they can get to those numbers. And that's what I also want to be clear about, members, is that we heard a lot about fines today. Obviously, there has to be some sort of consequence if something doesn't eventually happen. But there are so many steps in that process, in this process, with the department to make sure that remedies can happen before that ever gets there. Nowhere in any of my testimony, nowhere in any of my stakeholding, any of the conversations I've had, is this saying hospitals are bad. That's not what this bill is about. This bill is about making sure we're protecting healthcare workers and making sure that our state is prepared if there's another emergency, another pandemic. Now is the time to start taking care of the people that took care of us. And that's what we're doing in House Bill 1401. I ask for a yes vote.
See no further to Representative Holtorf. I do believe this is your second time on. Oh, it's your
Yes,
third
Mr.
time.
Speaker, but I will be brief.
You have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. This is my second time.
Your second time, and you have 3 minutes remaining.
Thank you. I won't take that much time. I want the body to know there's a couple things. With this pool of nurses that are traveling nurses, here's what happens to us. And I'm going to share this experience because my daughter, who works in Fort Morgan as a nurse, has even told me, I think I'm going to go be a traveling nurse. Look how much money they make. She's single, she's young, she has the skills. So what happens? We are creating a condition that actually hurts our hospitals and forces economically people to make the choice to make more money in the traveling nurse pool. And that is a second order effect that is crushing the hospital staffing capabilities all across Colorado. Think about it. If you're young, single, and don't have really strong ties, why not go double your salary? Oh, and here's the other thing. See, these folks are smart. They say, I can only work 6 months and make as much money as I make in a year. Why wouldn't I do that? And then I'll go vacation in the Caymans or Mexico or travel the world or just do whatever I want. This kind of policy does not help.
You have 90 seconds remaining, Representative.
I'm going to stop there, Mr. Speaker, because I told you I was going to be brief. Thank you.
Representative Soper, you have 59 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll make this very brief. Seems like we've had a very robust debate and that there actually still needs to be more debate on this particular bill. So I would move to refer this back to second reading.
That's a proper motion. See no further discussion. The question before us is the motion to send House Bill 1401 back to second reading. Mr. Shebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Gray votes no. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Roberts votes no. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Representative Kennedy is excused. Please close the machine. With 24 aye votes, 40 no votes, and 1 excuse, the motion to refer House Bill 1401 back to second reading is lost. Representative Bockenfeld, this is your second time and you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Wanted to talk, I think the basis of this bill is surrounded around we have a potential hospital crisis, and I don't perceive that, and I want to explain to you why I don't perceive that. I have a number of nurses in my family. Some of them have left the profession, but they're well trained. Some of them are retired. We just went through a very, very serious pandemic. One resource in this country that we did not tap and who were on the edge of their seats were nurses who had skills, who were prepared to come back into hospitals, clinics, the nursing industry, if they had to, for the benefit of the people of this country. We had nurses who were ready to come out of retirement if they thought they had to do it to protect the overall health of this country. They didn't have to do it. So what I'm trying to explain, again, is government doesn't need to solve this problem. It's well within the hands of the medical profession to address these issues on their own, and if we have another pandemic, we have a whole resource that we never even tapped for one of the most serious pandemics that we had in 100 years. We are sustainable. We Americans are tough.
Your time is gone. Representative Bachmann-Feld.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I ask for a no vote.
See no further discussion. The question, Representative Rich, this is your second time, and you have, I think, plenty. You have 9 minutes? Oh, Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be short. I would like to make the motion that we take this back to second reading.
See no further discussion. The motion. We did already make that motion. The House will be in a brief recess. the House will come back to order. Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, I'm going to withdraw that motion, but I do move to postpone this bill till May 12th.
So the motion before was actually a settled question. I appreciate you withdrawing that. The motion to move it to a date certain is a proper motion. To that motion, Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Folks, members, the motion to postpone to May 12th is a worthy motion. I ask that you please consider it. As you can see, this bill is quite there's a lot of emotion surrounding this bill, and a lot of work still needs to be done on this bill. I think by postponing to May 12th, we give the industry the opportunity to address some of these concerns before this bill would ever have to take effect. I think the next legislative session, if it goes that far, because I believe our last day is May 12th. Is that correct, Mr. Speaker?
Unless there's a special session, Representative Bockenfeld.
Okay. And a special session may be warranted, but it's a very controversial bill. And it's controversial from the standpoint that it has a huge impact on rural hospitals. It has a huge impact on all hospitals, but especially rural hospitals. So I ask out of the kindness of your hearts, give our rural colleagues the opportunity to address these issues. We don't need the heavy hand of government getting involved in our hospitals at this point. We don't have to be concerned, as I said in my last discussion, about if there was another crisis that hit this country, because we had a resource, as I explained, that we never even tapped into. I think by postponing this bill to May 12th, you are showing a good faith effort that you're willing to reach across the aisle and find some compromise to address the concerns that you heard here today. I know you want to do that. I know we sometimes get pressure from various sources about different solutions, but you can see what happens in this well, what the right answers can be. And that is this bill's not ready for prime time. If it was ready for prime time, you wouldn't have all the controversy that surrounded the bill. If it was ready for prime time, you would have both sides of the aisle getting up and speaking in favor of the bill. Out of the kindness of your hearts, give us the opportunity to address these issues from the industry standpoint and not the government solution. We all have certain skills here. We don't try to come in to this chamber and use our skills to influence public policy. We try to be open-minded. And I'm going to ask you to please be open-minded. Let the industry address these issues on their own without the heavy hand of government. It doesn't work. History tells us it doesn't work. So please, vote in support of this motion.
Representative Silver.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise in support of this motion. Members, what's next week? I'll tell you, it's Hospital Week. It's National Hospital Week. What a gift for our hospitals than to have House Bill 1401 go through the legislative process, and on May 11th is Sine Die, my favorite day, and May the 12th is the day after Sine Die. Actually, no, that's really my favorite day. Sine Die is actually my second favorite day. But to move it to May 12th means that we would have time to bring stakeholders back together and to really take a more deliberative approach to looking at the issue. I certainly appreciate my colleague, for running this bill and for having the care and passion for both the healthcare workforce and the patients. But the problem here is, I never once heard of a single Western Slope rural hospital being included in the stakeholding. No one was invited to the table. No one was involved. And yet, who is impacted most by this bill? Rural Western Colorado and the Eastern Plains. This bill is strategically designed to further the war on rural Colorado.
Let's not impugn anyone's motives. Representative Silver.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's why moving it to May 12th is critical. It's critical to be able to say, let's step back. Let's not have a bill that's looking for a problem. It's a solution looking for a problem. And as I had explained earlier, if that was not so, I guarantee you that patients or even nurses themselves would be suing the hospitals for falling below a standard of care. And if lawsuits did come, as I had talked about on second reading, as you remember, I talked about the McDonald's lawsuit and how that actually changed policy within the fast food world. Instead of serving coffee at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, they dropped it down to 185 degrees Fahrenheit, which was a much safer temperature. The same would be true with hospitals. That if hospitals are falling below a certain standard of care in being able to deliver care to the patient, then a lawsuit would emerge. And I guarantee you, it only takes one hospital getting sued for the entire industry to change policy. But that's not happening. Hospitals, hospital administration, nurses, doctors, they care passionately about the patient. I heard it said in this very well that many people go into nursing and medicine because it's a calling. It's a calling much like some go into ministry or the law or farming. But it's a calling. And it's something that, we have to respect those who have this calling because they serve a vital part of our society. But this bill is not the answer. It's actually the problem. The beatings will continue until morale improves. That's what's here. Hospitals have been struggling, our rural hospitals have been struggling to make it. And to quote my colleague from Arapahoe County, have a heart. Please vote no on this bill and vote yes on this motion. Thank you.
That was a good save, Representative Silver. Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you too, Representative Will.
So I stand in support of the motion. I know the bill sponsors has admirable intentions with this bill. I do. I know that. What concerns me is the collateral damage it could cause and the collateral damage it can cause in rural Colorado. I'm always afraid of losing our rural hospitals, our critical access hospitals. You know, there's, already 13 counties in the state of Colorado don't have a hospital. Let's not make it 33. Let's not make it 43. So, in much of there that I represent, you know, we talk about EMS services around the state here. That's a real problem in northwest Colorado. We have, you know, and the defined portion of the punitive part of this really concerns me. We've had lots of discussion about that. My hospital there in Rangeley probably couldn't take one day of fines and stay afloat. Memorial Hospital in Craig, they struggle financially as well. Pioneer and Meeker. We're always talking about staffing issues. I just got on the Grand River Hospital Board over in Rifle, and I'll tell you, I helped get the vote for the tax for that hospital several years ago. Want to get on there. I actually want to serve on a hospital board, so I actually make myself a better legislator and understand some of these issues more. But I've actually only been to 2 board meetings. Both those board meetings, we talk about staffing. And, you know, the part of the bill was that was going to make hospitals develop and oversee a patient care staffing plan. I can tell you these hospitals are already looking at staffing plans. That's foremost in their head. We have a senior center there in Rifle, probably it's actually the best one I've ever been to. I submit to you that it's probably the best one in the state, the nicest in the state. There's 4 wings to that. 1 wing is open. Lots of people needing to get in there, wanting to get in there. The reason those other 3 wings aren't open, no staffing, no healthcare workers. And so it's evaluating the nursing staff planning on a quarterly basis. Hospitals are already doing that. Complaint and feedback process already happening. High priority in the hospitals that I know of in these rural areas that are already doing all of that. So I think I know the intentions were good with this bill. I think the issues of, as I spoke earlier about the collateral damage to it, that really concerns me. And for representing rural Colorado and the hospitals that I represent, I have really grave concerns about this bill. So I support the motion to move this to May 12th, my birthday. Thank you.
I also think it's Representative Nunn's birthday too, right? You guys share a birthday. It's great. Yeah. Special session. No, I'm just joking. Representative Pico.
Rep. Neville's older.
Representative Pico.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this motion. We all have this same desire to see the hospitals fully staffed, to see all of the issues that are the objectives of the bill. But there's a difference between the objectives and what the bill will actually accomplish. Well, we've heard in here from the bill sponsor, who has all the best intentions of what the bill will do. But it won't. It actually won't do that, because it's going in there a proscriptive approach, mandating what you're going to accomplish as opposed to how to get there. And the issue is not what you want to accomplish, because we all do that. We all want to have that. When this pandemic started, I was still down in local government, and we have our hospitals there, and we have the privately run hospital and nonprofit as well. And that was almost daily briefings and statistics running about how we were doing within the pandemic, and that continued when I came up here. We were all concerned about that. We all had the foremost, the care of the people who were taking care of us. Everyone still holds our healthcare workers in the highest esteem. They have been through, they've been through the grinder and continue to be so. And do we need to be prepared for the next pandemic, whatever it is? Sure. Well, how are you going to stock a vaccine for a pandemic that hasn't started yet? You don't know what's going to be. We can't make all those predictions, and to come in there with punitive actions against them is what was hard to do that. As I said before, we were tracking the status every day, but one of the questions I kept asking and could never get a good straight answer, not because they didn't want to give me one, but because they just couldn't come up with it, was, what's our bed capacity? How many beds do we have available? And what's the percentage we have occupied? And they couldn't give me the number because it's tied to the staffing, and the staffing was overwhelmed. They couldn't come up with a good number. And so I ask you, members, we have the problem. We have everyone on board wanting to solve the problem. It's the approach that is in the question. And having the mandatory accomplishments, the fines assessed on hospitals, in no position to take, whether they're rural or suburban or urban, those fines will kill them. And they will detract from the available funds that should go for health care. You want to increase health care, but you're going to really reduce it because you're going to take the resources away. Nurses aren't the only health care workers category that has been under stress. They all are. And I made this point before. The doctors are under stress. All of the technicians, they're all burnt out just as much. My daughter, who works in this industry, is burnt out. My son, who's a doctor, has been on the floor for an awful lot. I've heard from all of them, and I know many of us have the same. We all want to help our healthcare workers. We all want to ensure the standards are met. But you don't do that from a top-down prescription. You do that by working with the industry. We heard in here before that the fines were negotiated with the hospitals associations and the nurse associations and so forth. And then we heard a letter that said, well, no, not really. So I ask you, members, postpone this. Postpone this state cert and go back and work it. Many of us have postponed one of our bills. Many of us have carried a bill that we're absolutely dedicated to accomplishing and say, you know what? It needs more work. And we've taken them back and done the work to try to get it right. This bill is not ready because it will hurt healthcare, even though it wants to help it. It will hurt the staffing problems. It will hurt the ability of hospitals to meet the objectives that are outlined in the bill. Members, I ask for a yes on this motion.
Representative Hanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I support this motion to lay this over until the 12th of May as well. If we start, let's look at what could happen, possible courses of outcome. If we lose hospitals because they can't pay these fines, which is not an unrealistic scenario, it doesn't just impact the people that live there. It impacts the people traveling through. It impacts tourism in our beautiful rural, frontier, mountainous, riverine state that we have. And, you know, I've lived in some countries where people got hurt and you threw them in the back of a pickup truck and you drove them to where you thought the help was. And it'd be nice if we didn't have a bunch of hospitals out in rural Colorado that have plywood up on the windows that say, keep driving. The next hospital is in the next town. That's a real possibility with $10,000 a day fines for a problem that the hospital fundamentally doesn't want to have in the first place, and that is finding staff. It's just, it flies in the face of logic to the point that we ought to be rethinking about it, and we should start thinking about it on the 12th of May. I urge an aye vote on this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hanks. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the motion to lay over House Bill 1401 until May 12th. Mr. Shee will please open the machine, and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Gray votes no. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Roberts votes no. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Ortiz votes no. Representative D. Valdez and Representative Weissman are excused. I'm sorry, Representative D. Valdez is right there. Sorry about that. Representative Weissman's excused. Please close the machine. With 24 aye votes, 40 no votes, and 1 excuse, the motion to lay over House Bill 1401 is lost. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1401 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Shee will please open the machine, and members please proceed to vote. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Gray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Gray votes yes. Representative Roberts, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Roberts votes no. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Please close the machine. With 37 aye votes, 27 no votes, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1401 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Ortiz, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the third reading calendar until later today.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the third reading calendar will be laid over till later today. Majority Leader Escar. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until later today.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over till later today. I'm going to do a little bit of work up here, but you guys are free to go. Or we can do announcements and introductions, if you guys would like to do that first. Oh yeah, all right. Let's do reports of committees of reference before that.
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1061 is amended, 1221 is amended, 1223 is amended, 1413 is amended, 1416 is amended. Senate Bills 1223 is amended, 69, 98, 133, 134, 151, 155, 161 is amended, 163, 187, 207, 209, 235 is amended, 236 as amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Introduction of bills. All right. We'll stick it in order. A message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
message from the Senate
passed.
will be buried very deep in the journal. Message from the reviser.
We herewith transmit.
Message from the reviser will be printed in the journal. Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 43 by Senators Cook and Gonzalez, also Representative Lynch, concerning enhancing restitution services for victims and a connection therewith making appropriation.
Senate Bill 43 will be assigned to the Committee on Business Affairs and Labor.
Senate Bill 234 by Senators Hansen and Rankin, also Representatives Ortiz and Snyder, concerning unemployment compensation.
Senate Bill 234 will be assigned to the Committee on Finance.
Senate Bill 237 by Senators Fenberg and Holbert, also Representatives Kennedy and Larson, concerning measures to promote increased transparency of funds used in ballot measure campaigns and in connection therewith making appropriation.
Senate Bill 237 will be assigned to the Committee on State, Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs. Announcements and introductions. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs, Old State Library in 5 minutes. Please head straight over there. We're adding Senate Bill 237 to the calendar first, followed by Senate Bill 230.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, it is an epic day in finance, and we are adding Senate Bill 234 to the end of the calendar, so we'll see you there.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Business and labor members, let's not keep the hardworking, tax-paying citizens of the state of Colorado waiting for us. We will be down in room 107 with Senate Bill 179, and we have been added Senate Bill 43. As soon as we get a quorum down there, we will get started. Thank you.
Seeing no further announcements or introductions, I guess I do have one. The Senate did not concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 21 and has requested a conference committee. House conferees are Representative Benavides, Chair, Representative Mobley, and Representative Pelton. Seeing no other announcements or introductions, Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess till later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess till later today.